What's up guys, Julian here, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make a full, hard, melodic rave techno track. I'm going to be showing you a bunch of new techniques. I've got a new kick technique, some new stuff with the leads and synths as well, and the drums too. So stick around. As always, you can grab the full project files, samples, MIDI, presets, everything from this video is available right in the top of the description on my website. Definitely go grab that. It's a really great way to support me. Plus, you get this really high quality template. It's literally a full track. You can make a whole EP just using this template, right? There's a lot of value here, and I think you guys are missing out if you don't go grab this. This is really one of the best hard techno templates on the market for the style, and I know because I've put years of work into this and really studied these style of tracks, and I figured out how it works. So, if you want to benefit from all that time that I put in, link is at the top of the description. Again, this really helps support me, but it's also going to help support you guys making your best music. Like I said, if you get this template, this is going to take your stuff to the next level. You already are starting off with a super high quality project file set up in this style. So, a lot of the battle is already done for you, and you can go and get creative and even just learn from it. Maybe you want to set it all up yourself next time, but this is a really great template to learn from. So, link is at the top of the description. Thank you so much for all the support, guys. Every little bit helps. And let's dive into the video. Alright, so we're at 140 BPM, and the first thing we have up here is the kick. Now, this is my new kick method. What's happening here is we have our standard regular kick. Right, just a nice fat punchy kick. No processing. And then we actually have two basses that play together to create one groove. So we have this one. And then this one. So what's happening here is it starts with the first bass. If you're talking about in order of how you're going to make this track, it starts with just the kick. And then you're going to make this. So the way this is made is, it's the same kick. It's literally that same kick that you just saw, right? But then what's happening is it's playing, the MIDI it's playing is like this, dun 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 dun, like this. I'll play it without any of the effects so you can hear it. Right, just like this super busy rhythm that's very repetitive. You just create like in this case, it's a half note, right? That's the whole pattern right there, and then just duplicate it. Right, and then what's happening is we're making a pretty standard rumble with this. So it's reverb, a very short reverb, a bit of an amp to give it that fatness and distortion, and then a low pass to take away some of the highs and still let through a lot of that mid-range. Now that's the first thing, is that, well, not really the first thing, but that's one of the things is with this style of rumble, a lot of times when you're making a rumble kick, you want to do this, just only the bass like that, but actually you want to let a lot more of that stuff through on this kick. So yeah, we've got that. And then we just have a compressor side chaining into the main kick, an EQ which is cutting out the highs and also cutting out the lows a little bit. And then we just have a utility converting everything to mono at the end to make sure that it's mono. So that's the first thing. And what this is going to give you is it's a rumble bass, but it just has so much more groove to it. Right? You can really hear that bouncing off of the kick. Now, that on its own is not quite enough. You want something on top of that now that's going to be adding even more movement and almost a little bit of a different rhythm. So that's where this third kick comes in. So now we have our super steady rhythm, but then if you add this, all it is it's the same kick that I used for the other two layers. Low passed it a little bit, pitched it down, and then EQ'd it, and it's going just like that, just over and over. If I play that with just the kick, it's a very subtle layer, and it's not adding that much bass, right? Because we already have so much bass happening in the bass I just showed you, but with this one, it's just that last little thing to really make the groove come together. So yeah, and then on the group here, I've got a bit of drum bus. Now, when I say a bit, I mean like a tiny, tiny amount. It's 8%. So you're not getting that much of this, because if you start to turn this up too much, it's going to very quickly get too crunchy, and you're going to lose a lot of bass, you're going to lose a lot of punch, and it is going to hit hard, but it's not going to hit as hard as it should or could. So you really don't want to use that much of this. That being said, a little tiny bit of this can add a lot, right? Like this is only at 8%, but here's without it. And then with it. Again, it's not adding that much, but what it does add takes something that's already very good and takes it over the top. Then we have a high pass, which is just coming on in a few different places, like in the break here. You can see there's some automation on that. We also have a low pass filter, which makes it disappear a bit. And then finally this EQ here. And the reason for this EQ is it's cutting out the lows. Now, you might ask yourself, why do you want to do that? It's the bass. Well, because there's some low frequencies that you can't really hear that will still be in there. And when it comes time for mastering and like that kind of stuff, they're going to make it less headroom in your tracks. So you want to make sure that you cut that out. Even if you can't hear it, it's going to keep it cleaner. And also, I think it makes the bass a little bit more airy. Cool, so next up, we have the actual percussions in the track. So I'll start right off the bat with the main ones, like right up front. We have like a nice 909 hi-hat. Super fat and punchy. We have a ride. A little bit of stereo widening from this echo on the ping pong setting. And then we also have the clap, which is just a nice 909 clap, a little bit of reverb, and then some distortion. And yeah, so those, you're going to want to start with those. Like when you make your kick, get these all sounding good, you know, get the ride in there. Because if this doesn't work, these three elements I'm playing you right now, well, four I guess, because kick, bass, hi-hat, and clap, if those don't work, all this other stuff won't work. But as you can see, there's a bunch of other drum layers here. So basically what this is I was trying to take one of the rave loops like I normally show you guys and actually split it into individual layers. So this is, like when you see one of these, I actually still have a rave loop in there just for like that high end that this one does add. But basically, these are all the individual layers of one of these. So you can see like we have, you know, these two creating a little groove together. We have like these. And then we have these two creating a groove together. Right, so it's all those little things coming together. That's gonna make up this one full sounding rave loop and overall just fill out the drum. And again, you hear what each of these is doing individually. It's not that much, but when you put this many elements together and they're all fitting together, you get that like very textured rave loop sort of feel. And that's how you make one from scratch. So yeah, then we have the synths. The first one of which being this bass lead here. So this is the chord progression, and then, so it's B minor, G major, E minor, and then D major. And then I just have like, it's playing 16th notes. You can see the notes aren't fully touching each other, so you get that like very staccato feel. And then also it's just like the rhythm with all these individual little things that I'm doing, like this jumping up an octave, for example. It's all just how that's going to fit into the track. Like I could, instead of doing that, we could do like these 4 notes go up an octave. But see, it doesn't groove as well as. So that's how you want to think about that. It's all about the overall track, not just making a cool synth. Now, for the actual sound here, it's made with 2 layers of operators, so it's a pretty simple sound. What it is it's 2 saw waves. You can see one has a bunch of unison on it, and then one doesn't have any unison on it. So you get one that's very like fat and full, like the unison sound, but then one that still gives you that like definition to the sound. So we got that, and you can see there's a bit of glide on those. I've got this audio effect rack here with a multi-band distortion. So you can see we got the highs are going through the saturator, mids going through this amp, and then the lows are just clean. So here's without this. And with it. So you can hear this can add a lot to your sound and really give it that texture that's going to make it punch through the track. Then we have a low pass filter and a high pass filter. So again, those are just moving throughout the track. You can see also on the drums, like these filtering technique is a really, really good way to transition different elements. You can see I've even done it on the drums a bit. Like all of these have like, well, they also have this washout on them, but they have like a high pass filter. And yeah, like just taking out the lows of a sound, even if it's something like the percussion or the synth, you know, it can really help to make it disappear. And then the last thing that's happening here on this bass lead is this auto pan. So that just makes it sound sidechain. Then we have the lead. So it's a very simple lead, right? It's only actually 4 different notes that you're hearing. So we're in the key of B minor, and it's really playing around with this 5th and 6th up here. That's what F sharp and G are, the 5th and the 6th. And you can see you can get more mileage out of the notes with different octaves. Like up here, it's F sharp and G. And down here it sounds like 2 completely different notes, but it's still just the same F sharp and G. Like your brain is going to register that as something that you've already heard, so it's going to be catchy. And it's also the rhythm, right? Like, there's a lot of space between the notes, and that creates a really nice groove because the drums are... So, there's already so much, like, very heavy rhythm happening with those. This, you know, it's just kind of, like, spacing it out a little bit. Now, for the sound with this one, this is made with analog. It's 2 saw waves. You can see there's this thing happening where one has got a pitch on flip that's going up, and one that's got one that's going down. So that's how you get that little like pitch thing at the start of the sound. And why, like, if you just took 2 saw waves, it wouldn't quite sound like this. That's it right there. And analog is very easy to do that. You can do that in a lot of other synths, but it's very easy to do this in analog. I've got a little bit of noise. We get the low pass filter with an envelope on it, and that's got a lot of automation, so you know it's pretty much just constantly moving throughout the track. We got some vibrato, some unison, a little bit of echo, not too much, because this amp here really brings it out, but we've got also a little bit of distortion on that. You can see just blended in. We have a bit of reverb. It's pretty reverbed out, but it's obviously like, you know, that's the sound. It's meant to be almost like a pad, but a lead. Then we have a high pass, low pass, which brings it in and out. And then also this washout, which brings it in. And all the washout is, you're seeing this throughout this project file. So it's just a high pass filter with a reverb automation on it. And then a compressor, which brings out the reverb. And then finally, I just have this auto pan, which is to make this bounce off of the kick. And yeah, so then down here we just have, actually this rave loop is pretty simple, so this just comes in the break. You can see it's just got a low pass filter bringing it up. Just taking that out, it just felt like it didn't have, like, it loses the energy. You need the drums to keep that like energy moving, but just not the full drums. Like having this little tiny rave loop here, and then how that's gonna contrast with when the full drums come back later. That's what you're going for. And then the low pass filter just brings it in and out, like I said. Then we have this bass, which is playing the same chord progression as the bass I already showed you, but this is the one for the break. And it's actually a pretty similar sound. So you can see, again, we've got one saw wave with a bunch of unison, and then one saw wave with no unison, just like a big fat respace. We got a low pass filter, which brings it in. Yeah, high pass filter, which makes it disappear, and also brings it in a little bit too. Because something I've learned, a lot of times playing tracks in raves, if you don't, see how there's like that high pass automation on there, so that basically what's happening is the low end is slowly filtering in. Right, like you don't just get that full right off the bat. What's going to happen if you don't have that is when you play your track at a club or a rave or something like that, as soon as that bass hits, you're going to have like this big airy moment, there's going to be no low end, and then as soon as that sub bass hits, it's going to go boom and like smack you in the face. This way, like I said, when you're playing that track in the club, all of a sudden the bass is just going to appear because it's just like slowly coming in with the high pass filter versus just having it drop right at that one spot. We got another EQ again, cutting out those low frequencies that you don't hear that would mess up the mix. And then we have a utility just converting the bass to mono. We have this pad here, which is actually playing off of what the bass is playing. You can see, like, if we play this together. Again, it's just a bunch of notes in the key of B minor that fit really nicely with that progression. So, like, we have our sixth, our fifth, our root note, another fifth, a minor third, and then another fifth. So again, like, not that complicated if you know what you're doing with the scale, but it sounds really nice playing off of that bass. And this is made with wavetable. It's two saw wave, or a saw wave and a square wave, detuned, noise unison, a lot of it. Low pass filter, high pass filter to make it disappear as well. And yeah. Then we just have a few more synths along the bottom. We have this pad. Which is playing in the beginning just to keep something in the beginning that you don't hear anywhere else in the track that can be like a little bit exciting for that part. So for the notes on this, it looks complicated. It's very simple if you know what you're doing in the B minor scale though, or really any minor scale. Like, so for example, we're starting here, just basic B minor chord. Again, that's the key that we're in. Then that switches, that note goes down one to the ninth. We have like over here now, we got the sixth, but then a fifth and a sixth down here. So it's not actually that complicated. What it really comes from is it's not even like knowing exactly what you want it to sound like either. But if you know these scales and you just understand like how that minor scale shape works, you know, you can just go, okay, we're in B minor. Let's put together like some different notes in this key and just see what's going to come out. That's really what it is more often than not. It's like, I'm not sitting here going, oh yeah, and I don't think a lot of producers are sitting here going, oh yeah, man, like, I'm going to put in the minor third and it's going to sound like this. Some people do, obviously there is that like music theory thing where you can do that. But even then, like, you know, it's only somebody's interpretation. Like, if you say, oh yeah, like, going from the root note to the major third is going to give like a energetic, like fierce feeling to your track. Well, that's really just one person's perspective. Like, the person who wrote that in a textbook said, this makes me feel energetic and fierce. That doesn't mean going to that note is always going to do that. So all this goes to say, like, even if you think you've got it mapped out to where, like, nah, bro, I read the music theory book. Like, they said if you go from the A chord to the B minor chord, you know, it's gonna feel like this particular feeling. Well, nah, because that's really just that one instance. So that's something you gotta keep in mind with this stuff. It's not like I'm sitting here, or anybody is sitting here going, yeah, like, this is exactly where this is gonna go. It's really, usually if you try to do that, that's when you get lost. It's really like, you know this scale very well, and you know little things like, okay, for example, you know, if you go from the root note to the fifth and the sixth, like down here, that's a very powerful interval there. You know, but you don't need to go, oh, well, the music theory book says if I go from the fourth to the fifth, it's gonna be like sad or something. Like, you don't know that. That's just one person's interpretation of it. So, yeah, sometimes these things can look daunting, but that's literally what all of this stuff is. It's just knowing the notes and the intervals, putting them together, and if it's all in key, it's going to sound like something good. And also keep it simple. So, for the actual sound on this one, we have arpeggiator. It's on the chord trigger, 16th note, so you're getting that. So we got a square wave as well as a saw wave here, noise unison. I've got my stereo widening rack, which there's a video on that on my channel somewhere. I've got a high pass filter, this auto pan, which makes it sound like it's being sidechained. Low pass filter, which brings it in and out throughout the track. You can see that's just constantly moving. And we also have another washout, like I showed you guys before. Then we also have these two pads down here. So what these are is basically, they're each playing, like you can see, like these little arpeggios. Right, again, just using notes in the key. Like over here, you can see, alright, root note, minor third, sixth, fifth, sixth, root note again. Like very, very simple little patterns. But then what's happening is each of these, you can see there's a ton of reverb and delay on them. So it's basically like taking like a little arpeggio and stretching it out and turning it into a pad. So you get all those notes ringing out. And see, there you go. It's like a... Now you just have this chord like ringing out over your track. So that's the idea behind those. The synth sounds are pretty simple, you know, it's like some saw waves in analog. This one's like this FM sound with operator with just 2 sine waves. Pretty simple stuff, but it adds a lot of movement to the track. Like you want things that are kind of like not so steady. Like these two add that. Like it's not just every single time you can count on it coming back. And the last thing down here is the one effect sound we have in this track, which is just this reverse crash. Pretty simple, just reverse crash. Got a bit of echo on it. One thing I'll say though, I stretched it out. If you just reverse a crash, a lot of times it's going to be too short. So you can see I literally pulled this all the way over to here to get that like shh. Because if you just do it like the default, like how it would usually come, see it's really, really short. And yeah. So that's gonna be it for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed. As always, make sure to like this video as well as subscribe, and let me know what you think of this video in the comments. Like I said in the beginning, you can get this full project file, samples, MIDI, presets, the entire full track template. It's available right at the top of the description on my website. Definitely go grab that. It really helps support me. You know, I don't make a whole lot off of YouTube, but with these templates, I'm able to keep bringing you guys new videos every single day. Plus, it's not just for me. This is a really awesome template that you can go and take apart, and I think this will really provide a lot of value to your tracks in a way that you can't get elsewhere. So, if you want to take your tracks to the next level, make your best stuff you've ever made, link is at the top of the description. Thank you so much for the support, guys, and I'll see you tomorrow with another video.